The year 2254 marked the zenith of humanity's reach across the stars, yet it also underscored the depths of its follies. Amidst the sprawling expanse of the known galaxy, the desert world of Zarafin emerged not as a jewel of human achievement but as a testament to its relentless strife. This barren planet, with its vast, arid landscapes and precious few oases, became an unlikely crucible for the conflict between the United Earth Coalition, UEC, and the Marauder Confederacy, a loose alliance of pirate factions, mercenaries, and renegades. Zarafin's strategic significance lay not in its natural resources, which were scant, nor in its capacity to support life, but rather in its location, a nexus of hyperlanes crucial for interstellar trade and military maneuvering. For years, the planet's inhospitable deserts were the backdrop for a brutal tug-of-war, as both factions sought to control these vital routes. The conflict was characterized by fleeting victories, prolonged stalemates, and an ever-mounting toll of resources and lives. As the war dragged on, the strategic calculus for the UEC began to shift. The High Command, once resolute in their claim over Zarafin, gradually deemed the cost too great, a planet unworthy of the Pyrrhic victories it offered. In a decision shrouded in controversy and desperation, the UEC opted for a strategic withdrawal, signaling an end to their direct involvement on Zarafin. The retreat was chaotic, a harried exodus that prioritized material and high-value assets. Amidst the pandemonium, not all made it to the evacuation ships. Communications were jammed, orders were lost in the cacophony, and in the end, countless UEC soldiers were left stranded, abandoned by the very command they swore to serve. Sergeant Aidan Knox was one such soldier. Born on the agricultural colony of Terra Nova, Aidan was no stranger to the concepts of duty and sacrifice. Yet, nothing in his upbringing or military training could have prepared him for the reality of being forsaken on a hostile world. As the last of the evacuation ships vanished into the azure sky of Zarafin, leaving behind only the scorching sun and swirling sands, Aidan found himself among the remnants of a forgotten force. With the military's departure, law and order evaporated, leaving Zarafin to those who thrived in chaos. Marauders, rogue AI units, and remnants of other, less principled factions roamed freely, each laying claim to their slice of the abandoned world. For Aidan and the others left behind, Zarafin was no longer just a battlefield, it was now a prison, a place where survival depended not on allegiance to a flag, but on one's ability to navigate a land forsaken by civilization. The desert world of Zarafin, with its relentless heat and shifting sands, stood indifferent to the plights of those it ensnared. It was a world that took as much as it gave, hiding its scarce treasures behind perilous trials. For Aidan Knox, the challenge was clear: survive, adapt, and find a way off this forsaken world. But as he would soon discover, survival was but the first step in a journey that would test the very limits of his resolve, his loyalty, and his humanity. In the unforgiving expanse of Zarafin, echoes of valor would be all that remained of the forgotten soldiers, whispers of their struggle and sacrifice carried away by the desert winds. And for Aidan, the path to redemption, to home, lay through the heart of that very struggle. As Aidan stood alone, the silence of Zarafin enveloping him, the weight of his abandonment pressed down with the heat of the twin suns overhead. The immediate need for survival kicked in, pushing the sting of betrayal to the back of his mind. His first priority was water, without which his life expectancy on this desert planet dropped to mere days. Pulling out his standard-issue survival kit, Aidan took stock of his supplies: a water filtration unit, albeit with limited capacity, a compact shelter module, basic rations, a standard service rifle with limited ammunition, and a navigation device, its usefulness now questionable at best. It was a meager allotment for long-term survival, but it was something. The desert around him offered little in the way of hope, its endless dunes and rocky outcrops painting a picture of desolation. Aidan's military training kicked into gear. He knew staying put meant death. He needed to move, to find a more defensible position, or better yet, a source of water. The UEC, in their hasty evacuation, had left behind more than just soldiers. There were outposts, supply caches, and perhaps even vehicles that had been deemed non-essential in the retreat. Finding one of these could mean the difference between life and death. The first step was to seek shelter from the relentless sun. Aidan activated his compact shelter module, a small, self-expanding habitat designed for emergency situations. It wasn't much, but it provided shade and a bit of insulation from the ground-searing heat. Inside, he consulted his navigation device, searching for any signs of nearby installations. The maps were outdated, and many markers were likely remnants of a war that had moved on, but they were a starting point. Aidan set his sights on a nearby outpost, marked as Echo Base, roughly a day's journey on foot. It was a gamble. The outpost could be overrun by marauders or picked clean by other survivors. However, the chance of finding additional supplies or a working communication array compelled him to take the risk. The journey was grueling. Aiden traversed the dunes, the sand shifting under his feet, making each step a battle. He encountered the remnants of the conflict, downed aircraft half buried in sand, discarded weapons eroded by the elements, and the occasional skeletal remains of those less fortunate. It was a stark reminder of the cost of war, of the many lives swallowed by this unyielding world. As the suns began their descent, casting long shadows across the desert, Aiden spotted the silhouette of Echo Base on the horizon. The outpost, a collection of modular habitats and defunct defense systems, stood as a lonely testament to human endeavor. As he approached, the silence was unnerving. There were no signs of life, no sounds but the wind's mournful howl through the abandoned structures. Inside the base, Aiden's hopes were both realized and dashed. The outpost was deserted, but not entirely picked clean. He found water purification tablets, additional rations, and, most importantly, a cache of power cells. The communication array, however, was damaged beyond his ability to repair without the proper tools or parts. Night fell, and with it, the temperature plummeted. Aiden secured himself within one of the habitats, setting up a perimeter alarm with motion sensors scavenged from the base. As he lay there, staring at the habitat ceiling, the gravity of his situation settled in. He was alone, stranded on a hostile world, surrounded by enemies, both known and unknown. Yet, despite the despair, a spark of resolve ignited within him. He had survived the first day, and he would survive the next. Aiden Knox was not one to surrender to fate. In the darkness of Zaraphin, under the watchful gaze of its stars, Aiden's journey had only just begun. Ahead lay challenges that would test his skills, his resolve, and his very humanity. But within him burned the determination to return home, to prove that even in the face of abandonment, one soldier could make a difference. This desert planet, with all its harshness and adversity, would not claim him. Aiden Knox would forge his path through the echoes of valor, a path that led to survival, to redemption, and perhaps, to a way home. As dawn broke over the horizon, casting a golden hue across the desert, Aiden began his second day on Zaraphin with a renewed sense of purpose. He knew that survival meant more than just enduring the environment, it required him to navigate the dangers posed by others stranded or operating on the planet. The Marauders, known for their ruthlessness, were not the only threat. There were also rogue AI units, remnants of the war's autonomous machinery, now operating without orders, and other soldiers like him, potentially desperate and dangerous. After fortifying his position within Echo Base, Aiden set out to explore the outpost more thoroughly in daylight. His hope was to find anything that could be used to signal for rescue or at least improve his chances of survival. As he sifted through the remnants of the base, he discovered a garage that housed several all-terrain vehicles, ATVs. Most were in disrepair, but one appeared salvageable. With his background in engineering, Aiden set to work, his hands deftly moving over the machinery, coaxing life back into the dormant vehicle. By midday, he had it rumbling to life, a small victory against the desolation of Zaraphin. With mobility now an option, Aiden's chances of finding a way off the planet increased. He decided to venture out to other nearby installations, using the ATV to cover ground quickly. The vehicle kicked up clouds of sand as it tore across the desert, a lone speck of life in a vast, barren landscape. His journey took him to a series of skirmishes and encounters that tested his resolve and his skills. At an abandoned supply depot, Aiden stumbled upon a group of marauders scavenging for resources. Using stealth and his military training, he managed to evade them, but not without taking note of their presence and numbers. It was a clear reminder of the dangers lurking on Zaraphin, dangers that were now actively hunting him. It wasn't long before Aiden encountered others like himself, soldiers left behind in the chaos of retreat. One such encounter was with Captain Alara Vance, a UEC officer who had taken command of a small band of survivors. They had managed to secure a defensible position within an old mining facility, turning it into a makeshift stronghold. Alara and her team were wary of Aiden at first, but his knowledge of the ATVs and his engineering skills quickly made him an invaluable member of their group. Together, they formed a plan to reach an abandoned UEC command center rumored to have a functional long-range communication array. The center was located deep in the heart of what was known as the Scorch, a vast desert plain known for its extreme temperatures and violent sandstorms. It was a perilous journey, one that would take them through the most inhospitable parts of Zaraphin. But it was also their best chance at making contact with UEC forces beyond the planet. The journey was arduous, pushing Aiden and the group to their limits. They faced not only the natural dangers of the Scorch but also attacks from marauder patrols. Each encounter tested their resolve, their teamwork, and their ability to overcome the odds. Aiden's leadership and technical skills came to the forefront. earning him respect and a place within this band of forgotten soldiers. Their arrival at the command center was a turning point. The facility was intact but dormant, its systems idle and awaiting activation. Aiden, with Alara's support, worked tirelessly to bring the communication array online. Their efforts were fraught with setbacks, including the need to repel marauder assaults drawn by their activity. In a climactic effort, amidst a howling sandstorm that threatened to bury the facility, Aiden managed to restore power to the array and send a distress signal to any UEC forces within range. It was a moment of triumph, a beacon of hope shining out across the stars from the depths of Zaraphin's desolation. The response came sooner than any of them dared hope. A UEC reconnaissance squadron, patrolling the outer sectors, received the signal and made their way to Zaraphin. The rescue was fraught with danger, as marauder forces converged on the command center, drawn by the promise of capturing a UEC vessel. Aiden and the survivors mounted a desperate defense, holding off the attackers long enough for the squadron to land and evacuate them. As Aiden boarded the rescue ship, looking back at the planet that had been his prison, his battleground, and his forge, he felt a mix of relief, sorrow, and triumph. He had survived Zaraphin, but more than that, he had found a sense of belonging among those he had fought alongside. Together, they had faced the abyss and returned, their spirits tempered by the ordeal. The journey back to UEC space was a time for reflection. Aiden and the survivors were greeted as heroes, their story spreading across the colonies as a testament to the resilience and courage of those who serve. Yet, for Aiden, the accolades were secondary to the bonds formed on Zaraphin, the lessons learned, and the lives saved.